There we go. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Mamta. How are ya?
Good. How are you, Dee?
Good, thank you. I have a very needy little cat who's just kind of on my, of course, at this moment, I jump online and she's like, Mom, pay attention to me.
So Katie's joining us at 7. So she's got a lot going on at the moment. She sold a house, bought a house, buying a house, got uni. She's doing all sorts at the moment. So yeah, she's a bit overwhelmed. So she's just going to come for the hour at 7, which is perfect.
Perfect.
That's all good. So we were just doing a little bit of a review about this month's training and some of the things that stood out. And I was just reflecting. Mumta was saying that she found last month, which was more physically focused, really enjoyable. And this month wasn't at this point the favorite thing. And I was just sharing, and this is something you can reflect to us, is and relating that to yoga teacher training and things like that, that all of us have such a unique way of bringing the same content, right? So like we all learn the same content, but we bring our unique self. And some of us will have maybe leaning towards more, like say in yoga, leaning towards more um, the philosophies, and some more to the postures, and some more to the meditation practices. However, all the tools are available. It's just a matter of like, that's what makes everybody a different way of teaching or a different coach. So yeah, so we were just sharing that a little bit. Have you got any sort of context on that you would feed into that?
Yeah, I would feed in like from my facilitation experience that don't limit yourself to the context that feels right for you. And that it might feel, like you might lean towards asana or lean towards meditation or whatever, but that if you're really going to connect with people, just having the ability to know that those other avenues and tools exist in your toolkit and to have some experience with them is
Mm,
hugely valuable.
mm,
And it helps to kind of like push us out of our fixedness of I like this. I like doing asanas, or that's my path, or that's my avenue, which is always very valid. But if you want to be able to correlate to other people, knowing that the other pieces exist and that you've got experience with them is hugely valuable.
mm,
And
mm,
also knowing that it changes, right?
mm,
Like Mamta, you know me from a long time ago
mm,
now in yoga, and back then I was a postures girl, like asanas were my thing. The body was where it was at. And now that I'm in my nearing late 40s, that's really starting to shift. And very often I wish that Shani Morty was still alive to see this phase of my life, because I was such the go-go posture girl. And he was always saying that, in terms of yoga, it's about the life progression, and having all of those tools, so that as you move through life and you don't want to be so embodied in your physical form, you'll want to do more pranayama and you'll want to do more meditation. And now that I'm feeling that and going like, oh wow.
mm,
So it's great to, as I know Wendy always says, hold it lightly, like hold your likes and your dislikes lightly, and know that the things that you're disliking are often the things you most need, or are things that you can come to later on in your journey, and it'll be really useful for you.
mm. And I was also sharing because we were relating to the NLP. Hi, Katie. Hi.
Hi everyone.
I was relating to the NLP, and when I did NLP years ago, it just didn't resonate with me. I didn't enjoy it much because it was so structured. Whereas now I've gone on a bit of a journey, and now I'm doing a refresher on NLP at the moment, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm enjoying it more, and I can now see the context of it in the way I coach more and things like that. So, and that's what we were talking about, is that like, okay, you've got it in your toolkit. And as when we first start out, we do want to work with what we're like maybe resonating with, but like you say, know that it's in the toolkit. So, how are you, Katie?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, guys. A little bit stressed, but
Well, you're in the right place. So perfect timing. We were just doing a little bit of a review of the month and what's kind of resonated with the module this month and that sort of thing. I know that you've had a lot going on, and so is there anything from this month for you that you feel like, oh, that's really stuck with me so far with what you have sort of looked at?
I did like that session we did on NLP, and I think we did neuroplasticity, and I really like that, like talking about learning new neuro pathways.
Mm.
And that resonates a lot with me because around lots of things, habits, belief systems, thoughts, patterns, like thought patterns, I tend to just go down the same highway. So yeah, I really liked that one, thinking that you can create new ones. So yeah, it's been interesting.
And works in well because Katie's studying psychology at the moment at uni as well at the same time. So at least you're on the same path there. At least it's not randomly different.
That all relates, so it's really cool.
Exactly. Well, I know that I normally we do a little bit of grounding in, but I know that Dee is going to facilitate that for us today. So I've asked Dee to join us today. Dee is dear and my bestie, and
That's not why I'm here.
but not today. Not today. Okay. Today, she's just a facilitator that I've invited. Hello, Miss. Thank you for joining us. And she, Dee and I have known each other for a long, long, long time. I did all my teacher training at Ashram Yoga, and Dee was a facilitator there forever and a day, and has been one of the main facilitators there. So she's been on the journey with both Mamta and I forever. And also doing lots of other areas, lots of other things in life. And I know that, like, with her training and just her nature, she's just amazing at what she's going to share with us tonight. So I thought, was being the 5th week, it's a perfect time to invite Dee to give us this little bit of extra training, and it'll really complement what we've been doing and take us as a coach to another level. So welcome, Dee.
Thanks. Yay. Thank you, ladies, for having me, and congratulations to you all for turning up to yourselves in this way. Joe, we met at the gym, didn't we?
That's right. When
That was Katie.
Oh, was that Katie? Katie, we
Yeah.
met at the gym. Okay.
Oh, hi. Yeah.
Hi. Very quickly. So we were all sweaty messes, but yeah. Joe, nice to meet you. So obviously Wendy's already kind of given me the segue, but just to give you
it's
a
so
little
weird that she's calling me Wendy.
I know. Do you guys call her Wendy, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I always call her
Wendy. I've never called
her. She's already given you the foundation of who I am, but I'll just expand upon that a little bit so that hopefully you feel comfortable with me being here and have an idea of who I am. So I've been a director with Ashram Yoga for a really long time. My journey started on the yogic path 100%. Well, no, it didn't. Actually, that's a lie. My journey started in the realms of body work and energy work. And the way that I move through the world and listen the best is actually with my hands. I'm a really kinesthetic learner. So if you see me kind of moving during this session, it's usually because I've got something in my hands to keep the wheels of my brain going. But just I started on the path kind of tuning into energy, and then that transcended into yoga because it offered a great container of expression to understand the psychology and the emotional aspect of our beings, the energetic aspect of our beings, and the physical aspect of our beings. See, I said it last. Once upon a time, it would have been the first thing I said. And then that has continued through to doing, last year I completed the Compassionate Inquiry course. I don't know if you've heard about that, with Gabor Mate. And I did that not really to add any tools to my kit at all, but really to have a therapeutic understanding of human conditioning. And it's been a great way to do that, focusing on trauma, which is a bit of a catchphrase at the moment, right? It's like very trendy to be in our trauma at the moment. So underlying all of this are my passions for energy and understanding and navigating the human condition and expression. And one of the things that I've learned through the avenue of facilitation is what that requires. And that requires the skill, and it is absolutely a skill that we can all cultivate and work on, of listening. So that's actually what we're here to do today, is talk a little bit about how to cultivate this skill. And, you know, listening as a skill isn't something that is only for our workspaces, or for if we're going to do counseling, or if we're going to do coaching. Listening is a skill that can really enhance all of our lives and all of our relationships. And apparently I'm very good at it, which is why I've been invited here. So throughout our session this evening, I want it to be very co-creative. I've got probably more questions for you than I have information that I want to impart upon you. Katie, you'll probably be very grateful to hear that, in the sense that it's not anything else that you need to be taking on. We're just going to have some experiences and sharings together. So the more you put into the session, the more co-creative it becomes. And I think the more entertaining it is. Yeah. Before we do so, let's get grounded, because we've all come into this cyberspace from various places and spaces in our worlds. So if you'd like to take a moment to resettle your body, or obviously you're adept grounders because everyone's already moving around, but take a moment just to really land yourself into the physicality of the space that you're in. Joe, are you lying down? Are you on your belly, or are you seated? Your back. Okay, I just wanted to be sure that I've got where you are in space. So it doesn't really matter how you are, as long as you feel supported in the position that you've chosen. And most of you have already closed your eyes to introvert and go inside, which is excellent. If there's any discomfort in doing this, just feel free to open the eyes a little bit and keep your gaze cast forward and down. Take a moment to sense into the surrounding space, the room which holds and contains you. Internalize that awareness even further and come into the encapsulation of your physical form. The weight, the form, the shape of your body as it's seated or lying in the space where you exist. You can almost mentally trace your physicality in this space. Become aware of the points of contact between your body and the supports that exist beneath. Perhaps if you're seated, the soles of your feet in contact with the ground, the various portions of your body that are in contact with the chair or the floor underneath you, or if you're lying down, the front portions of your body in contact with the ground. Mentally scanning your awareness through the contact points between the body and the supports, the physical supports of chair, floor, or whatever you're lying on. And with an awareness of these supports, connect to your exhalation. And with each exhalation, allow these points of contact to somewhat soften, so that every time you breathe out, you're surrendering your body's weight into the supports that exist beneath. As you continue to breathe with focus on the exhalation, also invite a sense of steadiness to your physical form. And now take your awareness down to the soles of your feet. Take your time and start to scan your awareness through the internal space, form, and shape of your body. witnessing what sits or exists for you here. Noticing any tensions or holdings, any spaciousness or openness that exists, any variance of temperature or sensation. Become aware of the physical attributes of your body. Scanning from the feet to the head. And once this noticing is complete, once again, go back down to the soles of your feet. And this time, as you scan your awareness from feet to head, take note of any sensations or emotions that exist. This may be overall, or it might be different in various portions of your body. And this time, when the awareness rises into or up to the space of the head, let go of the inquisition of what exists within you and be with your breath, simply following the feel and flow, the entry and exit of your breath through the nostril space. And this time we'll give focus or prominence to the inhalation. And with each inhalation, invite a sense of lightness and ease into your physical form. Breathing lightness and ease into your physical body space. And when you feel filled with these, start to externalize your awareness, coming back into the form and shape of your body as it sits or lies here. Coming back to the awareness of the surrounding space around you, the room in which you sit. Maybe broadening your awareness out past this room into onto the building that you're in, or where you are geographically placed. And then bringing your awareness back onto your screen as you blink the eyes rapidly and butterfly them open, reawakening back into the cyberspace in which we sit, little boxes. And here we are. So, Ankapa, how do I screen share? You're muted. For the first time in your life.
So at the bottom of the of your Zoom,
Yes.
got share, right? It's got a little bottom at the thing that says share next to React, next to host tools, next to
In the more. Hold on. Yeah.
Okay, so you just click on that.
Yeah.
And it should give you some screens, and you just click on the screen that's got the content that you want. Oh, she's changed your background.
Haven't I? No, that's not what I see. I told you.
Okay, no. So in that where you've gone into that video where it says video,
Yeah.
you've changed your background. So you just got to go back to that. Yeah, okay.
I
Now you got to find share.
Mm-hmm.
And then have you found the button that says share?
Yeah, I already did that. Hold on. It's not supposed to do that. Hold on. There we go. Please hold callers. We'll go back to here. We've gone into, all right. So we've got share. Yes.
And then it should bring up your laptop's desktops, like what's on your desktop. And then you can click on the one that's got your slideshow.
And I don't have a slideshow.
Oh,
I think I've just lost what I wanted to share. Okay, maybe we won't do
go and
this.
open that first. Open that first, what you want to share.
Of course, it's nowhere. I'm very technically inept with these sorts of things. Give me 1 second.
Good. We're still nice and chilled out from that little grounding in.
Good. Stay in that space, please. All right, we'll open this. Bear with me. I just put that there. That would be really... No. Let me download it.
I'm
Okay.
the same with those things. I'm always holding something as well. It's like Inception. Have you seen Inception?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you guys? Inception is where they go into layers and layers and layers and layers of reality, but they have this little spinning top to remind them which part of them is real, which version is real. So I've got this. So it's real.
Okay, let's see if this is going to work. Is it still okay? I think I might not do this. This is why I've
Do you want to send it to me quickly and then I'll share?
no, because it's now I've lost everything. Hold on. Is it gonna let me? There we go.
Yeah, just send it to me quickly. That's all right.
Okay, there's but there's a bunch of it's all on one file and there's a bunch of photos. So we'll just let it go. It doesn't matter. I can hold on. Prana Bar or Evolve Fitness?
Just do Evolve.
Okay.
Do.
Sorry. The one with the ears. The third one down.
Okay, I'll have a look.
Can you see?
Hang on.
Sorry, team. No, I can't get out of this. Oy, 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 oy.
Have you just sent it?
Mm-hmm. Did it work?
Okay. Haven't got it yet. Let me have a look at something else. Inbox, a new one.
Doesn't matter. Let's just go with that. We'll roll with that.
You go with that.
I knew the technology bit was not gonna work for me. I'm
Okay.
very
Well, yeah, could just have a look and then if I here it is. Yep. Okay, cool.
Of course, every time it's like, okay, we're just gonna move past it, and here it is. All right. So, in regards to listening, I'm gonna ask each one of you to please contribute. What do you consider listening to be? Mamta, will you go first?
Hearing someone speak and getting the main context of the conversation.
Okay. And what is required to be a good listener and to feel heard?
Not give feedback straight away. And nod. Just exactly what you did.
And nod. To have some sort of recognition, to receive
Yes,
some sort of recognition. Okay. Great. Joe, what about for you? What do you consider listening to be?
Yeah, really listening is when you really listen. Yeah, like really focusing on someone and hearing what they are telling you, whether it be their words or their body or their vibe or what they're actually really telling you.
Mm.
And I think to do that, you need to be focused on them and not be distracted by your phone or other things. You need to really be focused and looking at, hopefully, potentially looking at the person that you're listening to.
Mm. Mm. And what is required to be a good listener and to feel heard for you?
To feel heard?
Mm.
Yeah, for me to feel heard, I need to know that I need to know that they are paying attention to what I'm saying.
How do you know? How do you know when someone's paying? What are the cues that you sort of look for?
One, they're not looking at their phone. But that acknowledgement, you know, the reflecting back, or the nodding, or the encouraging noises to continue speaking, those kind of things.
Right. You guys are going to find our exercise practice really interesting then. Definitely. Thank you for that. Katie, what about for you? What do you consider to be good listening? Or just listening? What do you consider?
Great questions. It's got me thinking what actually is good listening. Yeah, I like what's been said. So really hearing someone, and reflecting on what hearing someone actually means. I think it can be paying attention, like what's already been said. And I liked how you asked, how do you know if someone's paying attention? Quite often, yeah, there's behavioral things like the phone, but in their eyes as well. Like, I'm guilty of this too. Like, sometimes I glaze over or zone out. Like,
that's because it's also really hard to sustain eye contact, right? It can be very confrontational, and it takes a lot of focus.
And even just like my own thoughts, like quietening my own mind and really hearing what someone's saying. And then I get a bit confused because there's a couple of things. There's putting my own filter on what somebody says, and then there's really trying to push that aside to really hear somebody else's perspective.
Awesome.
That can be quite interesting. Yeah.
So when we overlay with our filters of perception, because we all have different filters of perception, is that listening, do you think?
Well, that's what I mean. I don't think it is. I think listening is trying to drop what we think we know and really listening to a different perspective, or their own perspective, which could be similar to mine, but it could be completely different. Like, I'm starting to think it's actually dropping everything I think I know and being interested in a different reality or perspective.
Absolutely. How easy is that?
Not very easy.
And why isn't it easy? Anyone can contribute at any time here, but why isn't it easy to just drop that?
I don't mind. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, eye contact can be uncomfortable at times as well.
Yeah.
It's like if someone holds your gaze for a little too long, that's really uncomfortable.
It's awkward.
I find the filters thing quite difficult. So people can be talking, and I like our senses, I think, are all filtered through ourselves. So like
our experiences, right?
Yeah. So really dropping a filter. I try to drop into that the best of my ability, but I still think there's a filter. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's like the layers you were talking about, like Inception. I think so that's something I've been reflecting on at the moment.
And those layers are conditionings, and those conditionings are what create our personalities and our identity. I've often found that, you know, one avenue of what can be considered good listening is that somebody connects to me through those filters, right? That they have a shared experience, and then in that shared experience, I feel not only heard, but I feel felt, because somebody's telling me that they've had the same thing. But then I've had the opposite experience of that. And I have one friend in particular who that's the tool she tends to use the most, is she co-relates to what I'm talking about. And I also feel that it detracts from what I'm saying. Like, even though she's using it as a tool for connection, I've also had that experience. It takes the focus out of what I'm sharing and it puts it on her. And then I don't feel heard at all. I actually feel like this was a waste of time telling you this. So it's, you know, there's no right and wrong with any of this. What I'm going to ask you now is, and please don't feel pressure, take a moment to think about it. Can you think of a time, and can you share with our group, where you really felt listened to? And can you share the circumstances of that?
Are we asking everybody? Or are we speaking?
Yeah, just when you're ready, if you have something that pops up and go like, I remember having this conversation with my so-and-so, and what were the qualities of that conversation?
Oh, I can go first. I've got a friend who is so in tune with my conversation. Oh, she does it out of habit. She finishes the words, so she kind of rip leads and well, she'll finish it off. So it's just like, oh wow, she's following me. So I feel like I'm really heard, and I think it's more of a habit for her because she will really hold the gaze, and then she'll rip lead and just quite quickly finish off with exactly what I'm gonna say, which was a bit freaky when I first met her. And I'm like, oh, okay.
And that makes you feel heard. You feel
Yeah,
you
yeah.
see that as
At least
connection.
she's saying the same words.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's really noisy in here.
But it
Like
is
you have a
awkward if you
multiple
don't know
personality
her. Like I've known her for a long time, but initially it was just I just thought, oh, this is I don't like that. But then now I'm really comfortable with her because she'll just like look at you and then she'll listen and go with that rhythm and then finish off with the same words that you're finishing at the same time. I don't know how she does it. Maybe I should bring her as a guest next time.
Is she also psychic? Right.
We just have
Anybody
that
else?
CBT behavior.
I love that we're talking about this because I think it's the balance between relating, and I really like sometimes I get really excited with certain friends, and like what you said, Mum, I might like jump in or like start to finish, and then you get a bit like, oh shit, like there's too much of me in there when I'm not listening. So I like that, hearing that, it can also be a positive experience. I think I've had both. I've had people jump in and get excited and we're like, yeah, when this happens, yeah. And we're both kind of a bit hysterical. And then I've had someone really just sit there and listen and say nothing. And then my partner's actually a really good listener and he doesn't jump in. He just sits there and says, and sometimes I'm like, is this all okay? But then he reflects something back to me, and that makes me feel really heard.
So what I'm hearing between both of you is that timing is really important, right? And that sometimes when the timing lands well and somebody's in on your slipstream, that makes you feel really heard. Other times when there's silence and spaciousness for you to bring forward what it is that you want to say, that makes you feel heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wendy or Joe, have you got anything that's come to mind?
Yeah, I've got something that might be a bit weird, but I've got two. Like one, my sister, I've talked to her about things from the past and stuff, and I've felt so understood by her. So to me, I knew she was listening to me because the feeling of her understanding was just so complete that I just knew that she'd really heard me. And the other one, and this is the bit that might be weird, but is my dogs. Like, I know that they can't talk back to me, but I can talk to my dogs and they are looking at me and they are so connected and attuned, and they may have no idea what I'm saying, but I know without a shadow of a doubt that they are listening.
That's not weird at all. That's so important. It's such a brilliant example of the power of nonverbal communication, and how often as humans we overlay that our connection has to be verbally, and yet the words that we choose and the things that we say can also shift the entire context and feel of what it is that somebody has conveyed to us or what we're trying to convey. Yeah.
And I think the difference for me there is presence, really, which is, part of what we're saying, is that when somebody is truly present with you. And I think that is what you mentioned too, Katie, is that I actually really love it and feel very understood and heard. What both of you have said is that understanding. And so those experiences, I think when I feel personally most heard is in those experiences of connection where we're riffing and we're just like in the flow and we're on the same page, and there is an effortlessness. I've been in situations, especially in certain coaching situations where I'm the client, where there is a lot of very conscious listening. And I've actually found that really uncomfortable, And so the riffing listening, where I'm with someone who is on my wavelength, that to me is that's when I've personally felt the most heard. And there's a feeling to it. There's this relief, there's this feeling of contentment of what I've said has been heard. And that feels really, that's the feeling of being heard to me, really. Yeah.
Nice. So we've got timing, we've got like proprioception or kind of visceral feeling of knowing that somebody has heard us. We've got spacing. I think something that hasn't come up, maybe more so as being the listener rather than being listened to, is that we check in with ourselves that we're in a receptive space to actually hear, right? And sometimes, I can use Wendy as an example because she's such a full energy all of the time. When we align, which is usually doing something physical, there's usually kind of a busyness to when we catch up. I have to really not prepare myself. I have to get into a receptive state to be able to meet her at that frequency. And so there is that key of responsibility as well from being the listener. Sometimes we're really like, and I think that's when we probably don't feel heard a lot of the time. Sometimes these things can be happening. The person is present with us. The person is trying, they're mirroring, you're getting the gesticulations that they're on board. But the piece that might be missing is their actual receptivity or their capacity to do this. And that, I think, is the foundation of good listening, that we have the humility to check in with ourselves and see if we are in a time, space, place in ourselves to be able to receive. Because most of the time we don't even know what we're going to receive, right? And going through what I'm going to call like the 3 pillars of good listening. There's way more, but this is a short session, so we're just going to touch on these. Going through these 3 pillars are a way for us to not linearly, but know that if these 3 qualities exist in our conversations, this is a way where people are going to feel more secure in their ability to share, or you're going to feel more secure in your ability to share, because it's a two-way conversation, pun intended. And with that security, then we're going to unearth things. There'll be potentially be more vulnerability and more honesty, and all of that comes down to the self, right? So our ability to listen to others is only as functional as our ability to listen to ourselves. So knowing that if you're in a coaching situation or a therapy situation or even a friendship situation, an everyday life or relationship situation, the first thing I feel that we need to be doing is asking ourselves what our receptivity is, and being really honoring of that, and even self-disclosing of that you're able to say, look, I really want to listen to you, but right now my brain is really busy, or I've got somewhere to be, or these sorts of things, which can be tough for us because a lot of times that comes across as being uncaring. And it's not, because it's once you cultivate the ability to hear well, like I know that my husband sometimes finds me quite abrupt because I'm very clear when I'm not ready to listen to something. And it's a very like literally the catch line in our relationship is I don't have the capacity for this, or right now we're asking each other, actually asking, do you have the capacity to listen? And being really honest by going, no, I don't. And capacity doesn't mean that you don't have ability. It just means that in that time frame, you're not going to take it in. So what's the point of somebody using their energy to try to convey something to you? Yeah. All right. So what I'm going to call the 3 pillars of good listening are attunement, safety, and presence. So the first one I'll speak to is attunement. What is attunement? Attunement, and actually attunement doesn't seem to be a word in the dictionary, or if you try to spell it on your phone, it will always tell you that it's spelled incorrectly. I think it's supposed to be attuned, but I have heard it said as attunement, and I call it attunement. So the ability to be attuned to something is the ability to understand how another person is feeling and be present with it. So the attunement, the ability to understand how another person is feeling and be present with it. I think it's really important in that definition, the word feeling, because we're gonna come back to this. Attunement isn't a concept. It's not an intellectual structure. It's the ability to meet somebody where they're at with how they're feeling. And I would add to that personally, and allow them to feel like that. So have you ever been in this situation where you're telling somebody, you're telling them something, you're telling them the story, and the story is the context of what you're trying to share. And perhaps there's an emotional compulsion behind what you're saying, and they have met you in a way that really made you feel something about how you were emotionally expressing. Does that was a little bit convoluted. So basically you turn up to a conversation feeling a certain way, and the person receiving that tries to shift or change your emotional state. Have you had that experience? I know that I'm really guilty of this because I can use humor. I can overlay people what they're sharing with me emotionally by saying something funny. And sometimes humor can be the fastest way to create connection, right? Because when we're all laughing, we're all sharing something, and then we get in fast. But I've recognized in myself that there can be a real inappropriateness to that. And that what I do by doing that is I take away from their emotional state. And in doing that, I'm not making that person feel attuned. In fact, they're feeling separate. They're feeling separate, or whatever emotions are coming. So attunement is really allowing and being present with what exists for that person. To do that, we need to really be in tune or on the same wavelength as them. So doing things like mirroring their emotional expression. Now, that doesn't mean that when somebody's crying, we have to be crying with them for that to happen. But what sort of things can we do to be on the same wavelength emotionally as somebody who's presenting us with their emotional condition, do you think?
Can it be like tone? Like if someone's talking about something really serious, you kind of meet the energy kind of tone, like if it's a serious conversation. Yeah. So I think tone.
Absolutely. Tone of voice. Yeah. What else?
I also mean the energy tone, like yes, tone of voice, but like when you're really happy, it might be a bit like we're all, energetically, but like I don't know, I think tone of voice, but also I don't know, I use the word tone when it comes to energetic. So if someone's feeling something really heavy, your whole kind of like it's still good to say regulated, but it's going to shift how I hold myself, how fast or slow I move. Just the tone of the whole conversation, like take it seriously, I guess.
Thank you for expanding on that. The tone wasn't just verbal, that it's the way that we move our bodies. The danger in that is that sometimes we can overlay their tone, or we can placate, right? Like when somebody tells you something shocking, we can then project our emotional constitution or our emotional tone, maybe not our constitution, onto them, like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And that in itself, that even though our tone is changing and we're kind of meeting them, it's not necessarily being met. It can be overlaying onto them. So it's always that fine balance between meeting and changing. Does anyone else want to speak to that as far as how do we meet someone in their emotional state?
I don't have the right words, but a lot is to do with the actions or how we hold ourselves, or tone, similar to tone, but I'm sure there's a better word out there. Sort of meeting them at that level.
Yeah.
And, not over exaggerating with expressions.
Yeah, absolutely. So just being aware of body language, right? Being aware of what your face is displaying, being aware of, I often notice that when people, I'll change my camera, when people are talking, you can talk to them and they're often like this. And they don't consider it to be a closed body position. And then you're telling them something emotional, or you're revealing or sharing something, and they're sitting like this. So if I don't think I ever really sit like this, but just being aware of like, okay, so you've just said something serious to me. You've just shared something with me. Having the body language that actually shows receptivity and presence. Yeah. Yeah. Joe, is there anything for you?
No, yeah, it was trying to put into words kind of what Katie and Mumta have said, because yeah, it's meeting someone where they're at. And I think sometimes it's so subtle what we do that it's hard to actually put into words how we react. But interesting you were saying about the arms folded, because that is I was at a meeting the other day and I was talking to people that had their arms folded, and that body language can be so powerful.
Yeah. It's something like 90% of communication is actually nonverbal. So we're getting these cues physically, energetically, esoterically before we've even started to come to the point of using our words. So if attunement is our ability to understand what another person is feeling and in some way meet them on that wavelength, it's also being able to support this with positive reinforcement. Now, positive reinforcement doesn't mean that you have to be saying, "Oh, it's okay that you feel like this, and I understand how you're feeling." Positive reinforcement can be, like you said, Katie, just being silent and allowing the spaciousness for that person's emotions to be present and be a part of the conversation as well. Positive reinforcement can be correlating to that person's experience and sharing something similar that you had happen. That one I find to be a fine balance, because it's very, very easy to take the spotlight off of them, even though you're trying to create connection. Positive reinforcement can be touch. It can be actually just supporting them, leaning in and placing a hand gently, appropriate touch, obvious, or giving a hug if it's something big, or even asking consent to do those, or asking for permission to do those things. Would it be like you've just shared something potent with me? Would it be all right if I just placed my hands on your knee? So these are ways that we can help to hold people with what they're sharing with us without kind of bringing our own perceptions into it, even though Katie, we're going to have them, right? Like, the conversation train goes and then we're like, nah, 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 nah. So this kind of leads it, it doesn't kind of lead it leads us into contemplation. What does it look like? How do we positively reinforce somebody's sharing or somebody's offering without overshadowing it? Just having a little think about that for a second.
Can you say that again?
Yeah. So just contemplating, what does it look like or feel like or sound like to positively reinforce somebody's experience without overshadowing it? And you can share this from your own experience doing or your own experience receiving. I've already offered one thing in saying that I have this friend who meets me with similar situations, and I find it really it often overshadows, particularly because it's her modus operandi. It's what she always goes to. And as soon as she does it now, I'm like, here we go again, spotlight on you.
And are we reflecting at the moment? Do you think there's a difference from, well, I know there is a difference from a coach perspective as opposed to a friendship perspective, although we can use them interchangingly, just in a slightly different way, I think.
What do you think?
Well, my thought was around reflecting back what's been said.
Yes.
You know, so reflecting back, but however, in a coach perspective, that's quite a deliberate process.
Yeah.
So we can do that in a friendship perspective, that can feel very inauthentic, I feel, you know. So what I'm hearing you say, you know, and that's sort of like, that doesn't feel natural as a flow, you know. However,
and also using the same tool repetitively
no, that's
doesn't
right,
feel
exactly.
natural. So when you
That's
you know
right.
like when you start to catch on to, oh, she's gonna ask me to what, or say to me, what I heard you say is this.
That's right. Then it
Then you
becomes
actually tune out, right?
Yeah, that's right. And just like with you say, like, it's like, oh, here she goes, the spotlight. So it's those repetitive ways of, because then it's not actually active listening, then it's a behavior.
Yes.
Mm.
So
Could you
that
do-
go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, could you do something like asking what the person wants, what their needs are? Like, do you want me to listen right now, or do you
Yes.
want to hear my thoughts, or do you just want me to hold space for you?
Yes, exactly. So that's like getting the intention, right? Finding the intention of what this person wants. And one of the little screen shares that I'm not going to be able to share with you because I can't say
The pictures I can, which
that's all right. It's right. But one of the I have a whole little file of it here. One of the things that I found, which I really liked, and this is not specifically to coaching, probably not to coaching, what I'm about to say, but in relationship, is, you know, if we're looking for an intention, that we can actually offer people avenues of intention. Do you want to be helped, heard, or hugged?
there it is.
Nice.
Yeah. And because sometimes, you know, saying, what do you want, or what do you need, or what, you know, sometimes when people are sharing, or they're in, particularly if they're in the emotional state of, if they can get into the emotional state of sharing, it can be really, really difficult for them to tell you what they need. So offering them those avenues, do you want to be helped, heard, or hugged, gives us a great pathway to knowing what to do.
Yeah,
And
that's really cool.
Yeah, not overlaying and not overshadowing. And I try to, you know, I've now got this file from putting together this talk, because often when I'm in relationship with someone and I'm like, oh, what are those 3 options? Wait, do you want to be, hold on, swipe. But, you know, sometimes we need different things and different people need different things. So I think actually what you've hit on, Joe, is gold, is that it's actually not for us to decide. It's for us to offer, right? And when we offer avenues, do you want me to just shut up and listen? Do you want me to actually offer you some solutions to this? And that's the other thing we tend to do that can overshadow people, is we offer them solutions. And maybe they don't want a solution. Maybe, you know, maybe what they want is to be heard. So yeah, the helped, heard, or hugged. And the hugged one is big, right? Because for many of us, it's like, oh, I don't want to hear any blah, blah, blah. We're probably not going to take the advice anyway. I just hold me. Just hold me in this space. Did anybody want to say anything else about that?
It's a good one to, it's maybe initially it can feel awkward, but it's kind of good questioning, because it is different energies in different situations, you know, like sometimes a hug and sometimes depending on what it is. And we can't use that as coaches though, so don't ask your client. We don't offer that service.
Proper hug.
Yeah, or even in real time, you know.
Like Care Bears. Remember how the Care
Yeah,
Bears?
yeah,
just
we could
stand
just be
there
like,
and she would
okay,
be like,
would you like a hug? It's like,
you create some graphic of energy that just comes spilling out of your chest.
yeah.
No, this isn't from the coaching perspective, but we can still ask what somebody's intention is, you know,
What is
and
needed.
the intention of what do you want, where are you wanting to get to in this conversation? Are you just wanting to explore how you feel about this situation? Are you wanting to find a solution to this? Obviously, in the coaching realm, redirecting it back to self, that you're not offering that for them, but you're helping to create avenues for them to explore that. And by finding that intent, by speaking to that intention, it also, from the coaching perspective, gives you a way to wrap up, because you're going to be limited with time, right? So when you see that clock is ticking, and you know, probably because you've written it down, what this person has said that their intention is, as it gets closer to the end of your time together closing, you have that as an anchor. So you said at the start of this session that what you were wanting to do or achieve was this. Where are we at with that? And then they have the opportunity to go, oh yeah, actually, I feel like I have achieved that. Or it's just the tip of the iceberg. And then you can invite them to, perhaps this is where we'll start off our next session. Because it can be really hard to close, particularly when people are feeling heard, right? If you truly feel heard, for most people, it's the most liberating experience they've ever had in their life. And most of the time, from the professional perspective, therapy or coaching, people are coming to you because they want that. They want to feel heard. They don't want you to do anything. They don't even necessarily want you to reflect back to them. They just want that feeling. Yeah.
Do you feel being heard and being understood is the same thing?
Good segue into where we're going next. I don't think they're necessarily the same thing, and that would be another topic to explore. Words are failing me right now. I always empathy, and what's the other one? People are either empathetic or not sympathetic, sympathetic or empathetic, right? But I feel that between the two is what we're going to talk to next, which is safety. And so being heard and being understood might look or might feel different or land differently in our body, but really the common connection between the two is feeling safe. So when we feel attuned, we create the conditions for safety. It's sort of the pillar or the platform for safety to be created. And what happens when we feel safe? Then we share. And then when we share, we can listen and hear, more importantly, not to the other person, but to ourselves. How many of us have had the experience that in talking something through and feeling safe and feeling heard, you actually had realizations or recognitions about your circumstances or your feelings that you didn't have previously?
Yeah, always.
Right? But we need the element of safety for that. And that's what we'll speak to next. So when we're not safe, our nervous system is in a state of activation. You guys have covered the nervous system already, haven't you? Great. And when this happens repetitively, that is what we call trauma. So when we have familiar situations or familiar reactions that happen in the landscape of our lives repeatedly, and our nervous systems are activated in that same way, this is how trauma exists within us. Trauma puts our nervous system into a defensive mode. When our nervous system is in a defensive mode, what do? We tend to shut down, or we have modes of operating that help to create the safety